Thank you, Sylvie, for the introduction, and thank you to the Nehru Centre and its members for hosting this event. And I'm very privileged to be here, and thank you all of you to come and attend this discussion. While growing up in India, my classmates used to say that I have an American accent, and while studying in New York, my friends from Greece and Korea thought that I sounded British. Since I'm now standing in between two of my homes, I would like to take a liberty to speak like a typical Indian, but this is also where my problem begins. The word is typical. The word typical means having the distinctive qualities of a particular type of person or a thing, but it also means showing the characteristics that are expected, seen before, not new or fresh. My talk today focuses on how the typical and stereotypical imagery of any culture, country, tradition, people, and practices can reduce the quality of representation and its value through narrowly channeled funnel channels. Using my own creative Indian case studies, I wanted to shed light on the interaction between visual aspects of art and design. I will discuss how they can uplift the value of cultural representation to a new and contemporary platform by creating never-before-seen imagery. I'm always asked this question: how many religions, temples, and languages does India have? And my answer is always, it's the amount of art galleries and cafes you see in the streets of New York and London. Yes, there are that many. Oh, I love the actor Shah Rukh Khan so much, and those Bollywood dresses and dances. Oh, they're so musical. And oh my, those Indian weddings. Your weddings are so colorful. This is a viewpoint of a typical outsider who has never stepped in India, and the only connection and fascination of Indian culture comes from what they see on cinemas and TV screens and read on the blogs and fashion magazines. They focus on the fact that India's film industry releases more than 1,000 films per year. That is more than the double of films released by its American counterpart, Hollywood. The bling dresses, the glitz, the charm of women dancing and shaking their belly buttons perfectly with synchronized beats. Somehow, this has become the mainstream picture of culture of India. And even though if things are changing, the real question is what pace and in which direction. I have never seen Rajasthan's or Udaipur's deserts, or done a camel ride on the sand dunes, or watched an old wrinkly man smoking bidi with a turban on his head holding the leash of his pet camel. I have never seen or been to Kerala's houseboats surrounded by the lush greens. These are all stereotypical imagery of India you might see being advertised almost everywhere. They're photographed and displayed over and over again. But I am tired of seeing such images representing India. My point is that over the years, we have been stressing the immensity of what India consists of and counting the numbers of how much or how many. We do not focus on bringing light to things that are rare to find, things that could bring a greater art form of practice into a new dimension, things that bring a true image of India's culture rather than enticing the touristy crowds. My worry is the mental image these tourists take back home with them. An elephant ride in the Jaipur's Amir Killa and learn in which room the king used to sleep or where he used to pee. In 2007, while India was celebrating 60 years of independence with kite flying competitions in local communities, New Yorkers were celebrating it with images of India taken more than 30 years back by world-famous photographer Steve McCurry. I was so fortunate to meet him in person, and too bad that iPhones didn't exist then. The only selfie that I remember with him is the question that I asked him, "Will you go to India again and take more pictures?" He said, "Perhaps not. India is not the same anymore, and these photos of the places that I have taken, they don't even exist anymore." Steve McCurry is someone whose photography work inspires me so much, and his words inevitably inspired me as well. He gave me much needed insight, the will and determination to bring those forgotten stories and ethics, traditions, culture, art, people, design, craft, and elegancy to the surface and to new audiences. And that's when my work got its true form, with all one objective: to bring those old, forgotten, overlooked fragments from India and bring back to contextual and contemporary relevance in today's art and design industry. There are three responses to a piece of design: yes, no, and wow. Wow is the only one to aim for, said by the very famous designer Milton Glaser. I live by this quote, and I use this for art as well, and not just for design. Whether I do cooking at home, curate an exhibition, make a sketch, or whether I decide to do a family picnic or design a mobile app, it's the element of wow which is very crucial for any work, thing, place to stand out for the crowd and to make any compelling mental picture and a memory for a lifetime. Another quote that drives my work is by Maximo Vignelli. The life of a designer is a life of fight. Fight against the ugliness. Just like a doctor fights against a disease, for us, the visual disease is what we have around, and what we try to cure is somehow with design. These two quotes became my goal. I brainstormed how I could bring these quotes to life in my work, both in art practice as well as my commercial design practice. My first challenge was creating an advertising campaign, Look Closer for Incredible India. The campaign won Summit International Creative Award. Using digitally manipulated images and my hand-drawn illustrations, I created these images showing the concept of mind, body, and soul. I decided to create this campaign without using any typical images of India. Rather, I wanted to show a graphical representation, art, forms, counter spaces, combined with enigmatic colors, and design concept that defines the culture of India. I wanted to show the images of enriched culture aspects of India rather than show poverty-stricken boys swimming naked in unhealthy and polluted rivers in India. Coldplay, a British rock band, released a video with Beyoncé in 2016 called Hymn for the Weekend. The music video showed images of India and faced tremendous backlash by many Indians. As much as I love this song, I also disagree with the use of their stereotypical imagery. I disagree with the visual representation of India, showing poverty-stricken places and exalting images of uneducated people with no skills who have nothing else to do but make money by wearing orange clothes and long-bearded giants with humongous tilak on their forehead. The video shows the reality of India. I agree. And yes, India is more than that. But what worries me even more is something that not many people are questioning, is why they are glorifying and celebrating those aspects. These aspects that are actually making India weaker, not stronger. I have perhaps opened a new political chapter for discussion. However, my point is we need to highlight aspects that only show reality, but also help enrich a culture and add to the figurative value that brings various traditions and cultures together. I feel art and design practice can resolve such issues. My second challenge was to break free and strip out religion without losing its reputation. I tried to achieve this with my photography project, Creating Durga, the exhibition that is currently displayed at Center's exhibition halls. I read many books at New York public libraries, hunted for information in rare book sections, and visited libraries in India to find about how the Durga idols are made. In practically every book, I found 3 steps written less than 100 words. Step 1, the artist uses clay and straw to create structures. Step 2, they paint on the dried clay. Step 3, they decorate it with the clothes and other religious materials. This kind of text mostly accompanied with 3 images, and that's it. There's virtually no book which extensively covers the stages of 3-month-long of creating these idols that actually make religious festivals so unique, beautiful, and full of craft. This became the motive of my project, to document the process stage by stage, from broken forms to the end of finishing touches. I wanted to show the process, the amount of time, sweat, and energy that this job requires. I wanted to show the muddy, narrow streets in which these artists' studio is located. The real work used to begin at 2 p.m. after lunch, when it's the hottest time of the day and the sun is at its peak. I took these images with no flash, no tripod. I was not allowed to touch these idols, so my challenge as a photographer was to immerse myself quietly in the background while these artists worked. I took black and white photos until the last stages of idol making to stress the form, structure, craft, and artists' efforts, filling the entire book and the collection with stages, leaving religion as a mere colorful conclusion to my book. The perpetual attempt to keep the religion as a backdrop and keeping the craft and the artist's work in the foreground was the main driving factor of this project. I first showed this exhibition at Pratt Manhattan Gallery in New York City. During the show, an Indian woman came up to me. She reached out and said, "I grew up in India. I knew what this religion is about, but I knew nothing how these idols were made. It was strange that even as an Indian, I had no idea." Hearing those words, my eyes were filled with happy tears. I'm not from West Bengal, where this festival primarily originated, and I don't have to be a Bengali to appreciate this world of art and craft, which is being neglected at the forefront of India's cultural and religious depiction. We as Indians are proud that there's so many religions and gods in India, but we do not stress on the unique qualities of each, and we do not document things and to bring them into forefront of many cultural and visual studies. These artists are poor and make a living off of the skills that they have developed over generations and traditions that run in their family. They aren't fortunate like many artists here who have air-conditioned loft-style studios. They do not have those kind of the comforts, but they do have the dedication, and they are the true fanatics of arts and crafts. I'm not suggesting that the tourists or even Indians should move past the Taj Mahal or the Lal Killa, but I do hope that one day people would be ready to arrange paid visits to such street corner studios covered with plastic sheets, rooftops located all over India. I hope they choose, instead of visiting only stereotypical touristy spots, to observe how these artists live and work. I hope a shift like this would bring the talents of these artisans to the focal point of Indian culture, helping artisans become financially stronger. Another project that I worked on was the typeface that I created. During my prior years, my typography professor, Tom Dahl, would ask us to stare at the counter spaces of the letter A and tell us why Garamount is different from Adobe Garamount, primarily using the English letter. Even in India, all typographic studies are in English and not in Hindi or any other regional language. This is despite the fact that India has more than 20 languages and all of them visually look very different from each other. As part of my last semester at Pratt, I did an independent study with Professor Tony Despina, the world-famous typographer who studied under Herb Lubalin, as my supervisor. I decided to create a new typeface using Futura as the main structure along with serifs. An ever-transformative typeface thus came to life, named a team. The purpose of this project was to bring the study of Indian typefaces and fonts into graphic design, teaching, and not limiting it to India. I see this project growing towards studies of interaction between colors, forms, and structures. Indian Type Foundry, founded in 2009, the same year I completed my typeface design, started an agency that distributes fine quality fonts for the Indian market. I hope one day I will get to collaborate with them, and create amazing typefaces in Indian regional languages. In 2015, I created a Japanese paper origami art installation which won the London International Creative Competition. I made this installation using recycled paper and folded it into shapes of the game that I used to play in school called Tippy Tippy Tap Tap. With its meticulous hand-built art installation, I wanted to unwind the truth that success in life comes from hard work and not just wishful thinking. In India, most people depend upon God or wait for the divine message to define their course of life. I wanted this installation, which is fun, accessible, and colorful, to be a reflection of my own life, a life that I built on hard work and not luck. Last but not least, Fat-Free Samosa, my second book that will release in 2018, breaks stereotypical perceptions of Indian women using the best and worst moments in my life. I have stressed on clearing away many doubts that Indian culture and its perception. From women's rights to living a solitary life, this book discusses virtually all emotions that an Indian woman go through while growing up in an Indian culture. I believe artists can appreciate art from any culture and incorporate its value and forms and motives and find ways to bridge cultural gaps. Artists and designers create identities for cultures and societies because the basic element of any culture is art. As conclusion to my paper, I would like to leave with this wonderful quote: "Don't only practice your art, but force your way into its secret. Art deserves that. For it and knowledge can raise a man to the divine." Thank you.